on the lathe, a long time ago, and that's one of the first, that's how they first started. That's what they look like. Can you see that? I'll send it around.
Probably better to pass it around.
Okay. And some close-ups here on this particular MDF, or the Rose engine lathe. The way this is different from a regular lathe, as you know, most regular lathes, the headstock is stationary. You do have some that swing out, but for the most part, wood lathes are stationary. This one rocks when it's working. Now we'll get to that. It rocks, and what happens is there's a part here that's called a rubber. That looks like this, and what it does is there's a rosette here that has the pattern that ends up on the wood. So as the head is rocking, the rubber is following the contours of the template or the rosette. You can pass these around. Here's a couple samples of a couple of rosettes. And on some of these rosettes, you can make your own. So I took a pass at making one out of a picture and blown it up, and it turned out to be close to a poinsettia flower, is what someone said. So the last demonstration I did, I've made some enhancements. The first thing is, you can't see it from here, but there's a crank back here. And what the crank did, let me just turn it on for a minute. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
You just turned it off.
I turned it off? Oh, I wanted to. This was lamp courtesy of Gary's expertise from China, the sewing machine lamps. Works perfect here.
I know.
So what I did was, just a little, you got to turn the barbecue motor on. I'm so used to the hand crank. There you go. As you can see it rotating. Can you see this rotating? It's like one revolution every 2 months. What? Okay, I'm sorry. That's what you saw. That's going to keep rotating. You're right, Ron. I can turn it rotating. So as it's rotating, that rosette that I passed around is this rubber, they call it. It's a little steel, it was a ball bearing. So that's following the pattern of the rosette. It's called the rosette. So let me just, that's probably, if you don't mind passing around. There's some I've bought these before, but what the rosette, what the rose engine is for is, it's ornamental turning. It's just for putting an ornament on a bowl or a box or any item. So it just dresses it up. And there's like a box where I was passing around. It was a Mayhole box, small box. It looked pretty plain. So just add a little enhancement or some patterns to it. Okay, this is the box. And this one isn't finished completely, but it's cedar. And I just did the top of the box just to add something to it. That's what do you call those promise boxes, Joe? And also what I tried doing, I haven't, it fits. Yeah, nice. Yeah, once in a while. And what I tried doing is making some finials on this. So I figured why don't I try finials, and I've made some just like to pull off lids. So there's some finials that I've made. I'll pass these around. And they're not finished either, so what the plan is to use them on the lid to pull the lid off. There's some finials to be. So, anyways, like I started saying, I was using a hand crank to turn this, and the tough part about the hand crank is, as you're turning the hand crank to make this rotation and bumping, phasing it's called, you also control your cut and your direction. So you really needed 3 hands to work with the Rose engine. So now what I do is, once this is rotating and I start to cut, the good thing about it is then you can go do something else in the shop. You know, work on a bandsaw. It's in the same area where the bandsaw is, so you can do more than one thing while it's making its cuts. So, but you see, because you're, once you get your depth and your cut, as long as you don't go too deep, you could, you know, walk away from it, not too far, I would recommend. So what I'm going to do is, today, something that Joe Self started doing. He makes, I'll just call them yo-yos today, but he makes yo-yos. So what I do is I ebonized it
Put it there.
right there. I ebonized it using India ink. So I read a couple articles on ebonizing. I could never get the steel wool and vinegar right, so I went with India ink. So what I'm going to do is put this on the chuck. Okay. So what I did is, since I did boxes and such, I would dig into it and make cuts. So what I did is I got some of these plastic jaws, and you cut them to whatever shape you want, take off the sharp corners, and that helps not cutting up your part. And this, you really need 3 hands, see? This Tommy bar says it's okay for here because you really don't need a real plate. Put that here. So the first thing I'm going to do, it doesn't hurt to keep that spinning, is I'll adjust the slide, the XY axis going in, and I'll bring the cutter up to where it's almost touching. If you don't have your piece mounted flat, or your piece isn't flat, of course when you're making your cut, you got a high spot, it's going to dig in there, then it's going to take a lighter cut out of the other. So that's what you got to watch when you're first setting this up, that you pretty much have it the same distance so it's not digging in. What I also added to this was I don't know if you remember the last demo I did, it was a while ago, this thing was really loud. So when this motor cranks up, it really screams. So there is a website that you go to. I joined Ornamental Turners International, and they recommended getting a speed control. This is used on a router. So what I do is I just put it all the way down to low, and it cuts it and it doesn't burn the wood anymore. So that made a big difference. So now, turn it on, and that's a lot quieter, and you don't hear that real high pitch like there used to be. So I'll just bring it up till it starts cutting wood. There you go. I don't know, can you see that, Don? It comes in? When it comes around, you'll see, because what's good about this, the reason I did this here, this one is a flower and a star pattern. I also want to mention that the way it works, if you go left to right with the cover here, I'm coming in from the left, going inside. If I go from right to the other way, the patterns are different. In this particular one, going one way it's a flower, the other way it's a star.
You said a flower, the other way it's a what?
A star. Oh. Like you. Yeah. It's rocking here.
Yeah, it's a rock star.
A rock star.
Nate, does it make a difference about whether it tears out or a clean cut either way, or no problem at all?
Gary, thank you. I'll see you later. Here's a piece of, yeah, right, that's what it is. A piece of that bloodwood that we had, it's an old piece I had. I put it inside and it was really rough. But now, you'll see I did the roses and work all on the inside, and it's just like a ghost, you know the rest of it. A diamond. Yeah. It is shiny.
There's no sanding? No sanding in there?
There's no sanding on the inside of that
That's
one.
the machine oil.
That's the machine.
You can't stand it anyway.
Right. It'd be hard if you, yeah, you have to buy it.
There's no standing again.
The pattern changes a little with the size.
But after it goes around once, isn't it like,
Yeah, it's like 2 minutes for every revolution.
yeah, so it goes around and that's it. Then you have to adjust the depth.
You adjust your depth again.
Okay.
And then when you get your depth to what you want it, then you want to go inside.
So you adjust
Yeah,
your
yeah,
depth
but
and then you
everybody
got
has-
2 minutes to run in, make a sandwich, and get back
Go to
out.
the bathroom, come back.
And, right, you have 2 minutes.
Grab a beer. Or, no, I don't drink there.
Okay.
Now you see it's stopping the cut, so
You need to go deeper.
what's going to happen here is when I took it apart to bring it here, I took the motor off. So I didn't spend a lot of time calibrating it here when it was square. So that's probably what's happening. I know Joe's turning that railway too, right? And so it's practicing that square.
cutting.
Definitely wasn't good with it.
Cuts up. Also, you can bring it back on the box that you have. I think there's some rosin work on the outside. And so what you can do on the outside is what I did is
Now it's starting to see a pattern shaping up on it.
So if you do
Oh, you really see it good on his camera. It's starting to get the pattern.
You can see he's gone in, but I don't know where he's getting the spacing.
Well, the wood, the depth of the wood is a little off right there.
Yeah, something's wrong. But the nice thing about it is, eventually I'll catch up to it all.
Right.
And you won't know that throughout this, one was
Deeper
than
than the other, right.
Eventually it all works out.
You made the drawers?
No, yeah, you buy these plastic jaws and you put them on and turn them to whatever shape you want. Yeah, because it's all one solid piece, so I have to come in here and turn it down.
I always stick a piece of felt. If I'm turning
did that.
something really
I've done
delicate,
that.
you cut a piece of felt just to go around ones. You got to do it with each piece. Felt, you know, and with the rubber, the plastic jaws, that would be real good.
And when I've done that too, like with a belt, double-sided tape, but this plastic works, you can...
Yeah, as long as, and the plastic is flat and no corrugated.
On the jaws, you know, you have those points. So what
Yeah.
you can do on this is I
File them off.
file them off, made them round, so it's not making any marks for me. See, it's hard to... You can't, yeah, see, now you can see it up there. So when I do it now with this black, I wait till all the black is gone so you see one color. You know, the
Right.
color, whatever it is. This may be rose, but I'm not sure.
And the black is very good for demonstration because you can
Yeah, it
see
is. That is.
what's come off.
Yes, exactly. It's hard to see this.
All right, I think we need to go a little.
This piece is rocking. If you watch it, let's see it moving. Hard to see.
Very slightly.
Yeah. But if it didn't rock, I'd just do it perfect.
You built this whole deal?
Now this was a member here. His name was Bill. And what I've learned too, I used to back it off, turn it off, but now I learned to just turn off the power because it'll go back where it left off.
Right.
You know, instead of turning, that one took me for a little while. This kit comes from a guy named John McGill. He's the guy that designed this, and he wanted it to do demonstrations. Okay? And he sells the kit for about $340. It was at one time. And what you get with the kit is the plans for the box. You have to supply your own MDF or whatever material you want. He gives you 4 rosettes. He makes the 2 pulleys. You get a 1" by 8 spline that comes with it. The hand crank and pulley. The slides up here come with it. All the hardware comes with it, but you have to buy the XY slide and the machine. The cutter
That motor's
comes
a lot of money too.
with- Yeah. And I had one go out, and they told me by the time, oh, I got it for $109 on eBay or somewhere.
Oh, well, you did all right.
So it was $109 on eBay, but it went out, and the woman said it's cheaper to buy a new one than it is for us to rebuild it.
Oh, yeah.
But Barry did this all. I had a sheet. He's paid about $1,000 for it when he was done with it. He kept track of everything he spent.
Yep.
But he also bought a Grizzly Chuck. So I used that somewhere else. I just used this cheaper one here. You know, the Grizzly is a little more expensive. But doing something else, Gary, what you said.
Are there different cutters?
Oh, yeah, the different there's a triangular cutter on this, and there's 2 of them. There's 2 triangular cutters on this cutter hit. And so you have really 3 surfaces to work with. So after, I've got one here I can pass around, but if it gets lost with it.
So the cutter's spinning.
Yeah, this cutter's spinning.
But this belt is turning it.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Okay.
The belts, the way the belts work is this comes with, just to give you the whole details. This is the spare part kit. It's like it's a tubular belt, okay? And I found a company that makes these to size because you can buy a whole length of it. By the time you try to make this butt weld in there, it's almost impossible. I mean, I've had that fall apart.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the price of them was, it wasn't bad. So I got different materials. And, well, I've got some of these since 2016 I haven't used yet. So that one's probably been there a year or so. But it's not you're not using it every day.
Right.
But forget this one, he called one of them was made out of ether. The other one was, I forget what material, but I guess the It looks
As long as
like
it's a
the
company
red
that
I've
still
used,
makes
I
the
haven't got
parts,
to
you
use it
can
yet,
keep
but-
going.
But that's what it was.
The thing is kind of like custom made, that thing,
Yeah.
you
You know,
can
then you
build
got a
the
butt weld, and then
cutter
it's almost
holder.
impossible. So what I did was I started using what they call these lock link belts.
Link belts.
They're expensive, but once you put them on and get it to size,
they
you know,
last.
they're there. So that works out pretty good. And Joe, you were there one day. We were messing around with this when Rainey was down here. And we kept trying to do it. I went back to the original, and then when I went to the barbecue, the rotisserie, then I ended up making my own. And the one down here was pretty bad, made it out of rosewood, but you have all the dimensions for everything when you buy this kit. So this comes to $1,000, and this was, I think this was the most expensive part of everything. I think it was about 500 or more
Yeah.
for the slide, the motor, and that's the expensive part. But
high-end cross line?
pardon me?
You need a high-end cross line?
Not a real high end.
No, just
No, it's like $90 like at Emco or one of them.
Yeah, well,
It's the motor and that custom made, the cutter frame, the thing that holds the thing,
right,
it costs the
that's
money.
it. But even this thing, this is, you know, even this one, I don't know how good this brand is. It's Phase 2 compound slide table. That's got slop in it,
Yeah,
you know.
but you're only going.
It's
A mile a
import
year.
copies of stuff.
It's one?
It's import.
Yeah. So let me just give it a shot again here.
You know, we're not done.
Oh, yeah.
It wouldn't matter, but I was a little too touchy, so I found a high spot. So when I would continue to do this, is wait till all, is wait till all the black is out of the lighter part, and then move to the next spot. What also what you can do is this, just whatever you can get on your, the 1x8 thread string. So I've also done bottle stopping. You just put your bottle stopper manual on there. And here's how I did it in demo. I didn't finish it. So you bottle stoppers on there too.
So how big of a piece can you actually?
Well, look, I think this is 8 inches, 6 inches. So it's about a 12 inch, 10 inch, 12, 10 inch.
Probably 10.
Maybe 12. I mean, you could also drop this, you know, you could like on some lathes in the ways they have it cut out. Yeah, you can put it cut out here, you know, and get a bigger bowl in it. So that's what limits it, because you've got to watch it when you rock it, you know, maybe 6 inches here, but over here maybe 5.5 or 5, you know, 5 and 3/4. That's all you got to watch.
It's the bed, right?
Right. Right. So you can make a cut here, and then you can put a bigger bowl.
But this part here goes,
Whatever.
It goes.
The limits of the slide.
how much slide do you have there? Is it-
Well, this goes out till I mark it. Because if you go too far, then you got to have a little problem with threading it. So if you make a mark, you're more cognizant of it. Not that I went too far with it. Right there, ain't it?
Right. But you rumored, you heard that ugly
Base,
piece.
if you want to make that real wide, you could adjust the whole base over.
Yeah, then I can move the base. This base moves, by the way. It's only seat clamps holding it. So what I do what the base
That's pretty cool.
depends on the size of it. You may want to move. I've got it only on C-clamps, so you can move the whole cutter back this way. And then also what I've done is when I do the side of a piece, I'll move the whole cutter head around this way. It makes a difference, that piece I sent around, of how you're doing the sides of a bowl. To leave it in this position and just come up the edge, or to you know, have a longer position, a longer piece, and you want to go the full length, so you want to move your cutter here to give you a little more length. But there's just another thing I didn't mention, is the way the rosette works is, lost something in shipping, no, there it is. That's why the pin is over here when it should be there, but don't matter. You see, on the rosette, you'll see there's a bunch of holes at the top. So what you do is when you mount your rosette, you put a pin in here. And that just keeps it from moving around. It's also tight, but that keeps it from moving. So with it in this position, it makes one pattern. You move it over another position, it's the same pattern, just moved a little, and so on and so on. So there's hundreds of patterns that you can come up with the same wheel, left to right, different position here. There you go. You know, when I was a kid, we used to, my parents had this thing called a hoot nanny. Did everybody see those? Have any of those? It's not, well, I guess in Detroit we're different there, huh? But anyways.
We know that.
Yeah, okay. What it is like a spirograph, and it's got some gears. You put a pencil on there, and you just turn it, and it makes patterns. And it reminds me a lot of these patterns. As a matter of fact, I made one on the hoot nanny, the spirograph, and I took it over and made a pattern on it. Yep.
Go a little deeper.
And what it does, it doesn't make a lot of fine dust. So when I'm doing some work, I go too deep and it spreads it out, I'll have to vacuum cleaner here and I'll just suck it up pretty well. I also have the hose from the vacuum cleaner there to suck up a lot of the dust. So most of the dust, if there's no wind blowing, it just settles all over.
Kind of like watching paint dry.
It is like I want to do something else.
Imagine it's smoother with this, because you can get, you know, you get bored or something, you're cranking away, and much more even.
That's the whole thing. Here at the first point. Doing this one instead of cranking, you are getting a more even cut, cleaner cut. The only thing I like about the hand crank is if you happen to not be careful and go too deep, you can back it off real quick.
Oh, okay.
Here, so that's why you can't be too far, because you want to just back off the cut. So, you know, you really shouldn't leave your safety kit. Shouldn't leave any machines running unattended, right? It's a safety kit. Well, I'm thinking if you do it, here's what it is at high speed. That's awful. That's like a truck.
The roticity.
I don't know. When we played with that, there's different sizes of the pulleys which you want to do. But I did that a couple times, and after, well, I guess you could. Ralph sat down and figured it out for me once. That's too much work.
I guess taking such a little bite, you're never going to go that tool,
That's
right?
the thing.
It'll last forever.
I've got it low right now. Oh, high. It's cut. High speed. It's not carbide. It is carbide insert. Yes, but I'm trying to run quarter inch I've sharpened it too, but you can't see it there. Most of the time, we're running it.
That's your bearings go out.
Yeah, this guy is perfect. So you can tell when they start getting dull, no, the wood starts burning. Now they burn now. That's an awesome. Yeah, that's really good. I pass around, these are awful small. 4-inch triangles look around. That's 4-inch triangles. And they're probably
Randy, if you look in under John McGill and some of, you know,
Yeah,
because you go
John
to
McGill.
under the, all of them are online,
see
the
here?
back issues, he's got two neat, really cool articles on it.
Okay,
Do that.
okay.
Shows how we
I see where
build it
is.
and
Oh, I
shows-
see where, okay.
Yeah.
I got it now.
And like I said, once it starts getting dull, you'll know it because you'll see it start burning the wood. I don't know if I can find anything that it's
You
burning.
can see it, all you really need
It's
is a
cutting
drill
right on the
press.
tip of that.
Yeah,
Cutting
it
up
is. It's
some
just on
metal.
the tip. It's a good point. It's on the tip, not like on the side that we normally use.
But you can also change
The cutter.
different cutters on there with a different profile. Okay, these are just a
What's your
triangle.
camera doing now?
There's,
You can actually get different profiles.
that will fit that.
Probably when you live.
Well, you gotta change out the cutter head, but yes.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, there's,
Doesn't have,
It's like-
it doesn't have
The
I
memory
don't know how
card?
many
part in it, so it
different things you can do with
Yeah.
this.
And the other thing too, with the other cutter heads, what you
Goes
see,
on autopilot.
some of the guys do, they use a Fordham. You know, like a, looks like
Fordham
a
tool.
Dremel, but it's, you know, the Fordham, it hangs.
Fordham
Okay.
motor, and they have it sitting in a
They
the
use
thing
the
here,
hand-
right?
Right,
They
yeah,
use the
they
hand
they have a
piece
brace,
for
right. They have it hanging up here, and they've got that tube that comes all the way down here, you know, and that's how they use it, that's what they use for the belts.
Use the
But that's a lot,
actual handles.
yeah, that's a lot quieter, and there's less vibration with that. You know, but I didn't want to go, and, oh, with this too, what I noticed is, when I was using the metal jaws, if you got too close, this carbide cutter will cut right at that metal jaw with no problems. You know, it just takes it out, really does a nice job on it. But you can use different material too, like, this is some coriander that I just
whole
glued
milling
together.
machine, you could
And I
make
haven't
that
figured out
whole-
what I was gonna do with it, but, you know, insert.
Basically just a drill press and a saw, cutting up some pieces of
So
steel.
it cuts into corian
And then
real
maybe doing
easy.
some threading and.
Hardwood is great, you know, hardwood's better,
The
but
harder the better.
but cedar, for some reason, cedar really does a good job on cedar.
Really?
Yep, cedar is just, maybe it's the speed or the sharpness, I don't know, but it really cuts cedar
I
well.
saw that one piece, it was on end grain, it was clean as a whistle.
Yeah, that was bloodwood.
Well, you had a piece of cedar you passed around too, it was nice.
Oh, yeah, the little box, yeah, the
Yeah.
box, yeah, that's
I
what I
couldn't
mean,
believe
that's
it on
cedar,
cedar. I
yeah,
thought
on
it'd be like
cedar, it's
crap.
really, I use the rough finish polish and, that's it. I'll just make one more pass, and what I'll do is I'll just go from the other side over and you'll see the difference in the pattern. Just make one more pass on this. But I would go down until there's no more black, you know, the light would be light compared to the, but yeah. I'll tell you this, I don't know, you can do what you want, but the ink works good for me for the ovenizing. And he recommended in that article 2 types of ink, Speedball ink or Dick Blick. There's a place on Sunset by South Miami, an art store. Dick Blick is an art place. Sells all kinds of stuff. He's got his own Indian ink, Dick Blick's Indian ink, and that's what I use.
And what kind of wood is that on there?
Yeah, I don't know.
Pretty light.
Joe, you know that last batch, that last batch of yo-yos. You remember what it was? That it's light wood. I don't think it's mahogany. What is it, rosewood maybe, or you remember? Yeah. Yeah, maybe a light mahogany.
Sapwood,
Yeah. If you just don't crack it, it's either rosewood or mahogany. But usually mahogany is redder.
Yeah.
You can.
This side is just like a quick change.
Exactly, exactly.
All you have to make those little,
It's not a thing it costs money, they'll sell you the thing without, they want $500-600 just for that nowadays.
Yeah, that ink, whatever it was, that ink really soaked in this time, because usually it just stays on
Yeah,
the
but it's
surface.
leaving a pretty clean line.
Oh yeah, the line is.
I thought it might be like you see the bleed in there, but I don't.
But the big thing was on that bloodwood. If you saw the inside of it, no sandiness layer. Now on that one too, I may just go around the outside of it too. You know, I just mess around because it still needs work with all the cuts and checks and.
John McGill. He's got a couple different issues, like a year apart, and it shows some of the neat stuff, yeah, some cool stuff.
Yeah, what I'll do is I can add that
Is
link.
the
I'll add that to the.
Yeah.
the
you
newsletter.
can do another little one in the middle of
That's
that.
what I'm gonna do.
A
Yeah.
lot of good stuff in it.
Well, what I'm gonna do is go in the middle and come the other way.
Dave, on that Bloodwood one, did you do one pattern around the outside and then change the thing on the inside?
I
And
did. When I got down to the center, it's just a rosette, and then I came from I started off left to right, and I went right to left for the
You
inside.
changed it right
star.
there.
And then you see the star in the center, and the outside looks more like a flower. See, now you look here, the right to the left looks more like a flower.
yeah,
Where the outside looks more like a star.
weird. Just by changing
There
it.
you can see exactly the difference going left to right, right to left.
So you just slid this,
I moved the whole arm over. Now I'm coming from looking at it, from the right side to center. I started off left side to center. You still can't see it there yet,
When I go do the bank deposit up in Weston, all those liberal Jews, going home, and that just makes my day. I get a warmth rising from my Lord. She's a bird that will not fly.
My guys still have it.
I love that she would have called it might have been the cop.
Yeah.
And your problem is
Yeah,
what?
they
Sweet
told
tea?
her, you know.
Get the fuck out. You know.
Yeah.
Hey, Ralph?
Yeah.
The greatest thing is 300 pounds of all this is going on in the whole world.
So what piece of the movie is
It's over here. And you will turn I sure will get a straight What I did when I first started doing this, I took a piece of 3-inch diameter, I think it was, and I took every one of the rosettes and I put it on here, and I did go left to right, left to right, right to left. Or it's really left to center, right to center. But anyways, I understood it. And took a picture of it, so I know when I pick up a rosette, I know which direction I go, what it's going to look like. They also have, there's a computer program that these guys have that you go in there and you put the design you want, then it'll show you what the rosette should look like. So you go from what you want to what the rosette looks like, or you can go from the rosette to what you want it to look like. But I don't know if you can tell, you know, make a few more cuts. do is just move it to the outside. I'll pass this around a little bit. But since this is small enough, I can crank
I know how to do it.
the XY slide here. I don't have to take the whole slide and turn it around. I'm going to do the edge of it. And there's still a lot more I can do. It is when Joe made these, I asked him to make them concave so I can go in there, you know, and make them a little deeper, the pattern. So now what I'm going to do is come to the outside.
Without any.
You know, I think it looks like a 64th or less. But I can usually go down to maybe
You know.
the 16th, maybe. You know, and that's where,
Do that with
you know, the more you go down,
turn on the other
you know, the more you can see the
by
image.
the other.
You know, the deeper you get into it.
Plus.
So on here, it's just, this was this rosette. And what I did, now you see I'm going right to left to do the flower. So I started off with this one, going this way with the cutter. Then I stopped. And when I did the center, I went left to center and I got the star pattern. So that's the difference from going, using the same rosette, just going one direction and backing up, doing the other direction.
Does it matter the timing between the strokes, left to right, right to left?
What do you mean? The rotation of this?
Yeah.
Well, I don't do that. The reason I don't do that is I let the different positions on this do the cocking. You know what I mean? So by doing what Joe said, what if I turned it every time I did it? Well, it's easier just to pull the pin out and move this maybe a ½ inch or less and do it again. You know, so I've done some where I just start at the bottom, go over every hole, you know. And I don't have that here. I didn't bring that one, but you know what chicken wire looks like, or the, what you can do is, if I can explain this. So you start off with the pin in one position, then you do one row. Then you move the pin over to another position, hold it in that position, and then you move your cutter over a little bit. So what it's doing is like cutting where the air spots were here, and that's where you get your chicken wire effect.
Oh, the basket weave?
Basket weave, chicken wire,
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like more like little diamonds.
Yeah, Randy, they show that in that article too. Some of it's mind-blowing if
Yeah.
they're doing this.
But
Moving it.
but yeah, keep in mind those lathes that they use for that
Thousands of dollars.
are these lathes, the one I sent a picture around. I mean, and those things, if you noticed on one of the pictures, like Kate, when she was looking at it, she saw there's like, let's say 6 rosettes there. So what they do is, and I haven't quite figured out I don't think the size is right here, but what they'll do is they'll put 2 rubbers, you know, that's, okay, and what the 2 rubbers do, it's like, yeah, you need 4. What the 2 rubbers do is you have one rosette here, another rosette here, so as it's going around, this ball bearing will hit the grooves here, and the ones it doesn't pick up, when it's hitting the air here, it'll hit a point here. So you really get a pattern, 2 patterns on one by doing it that way. By putting 2 patterns and overlapping. That's
I was reading on the internet like a month or 2 ago about these ornamental engines, and they're making them now, and this one guy's charging like 70 grand.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, 70 or 80 grand.
Who's that woman that she made some of the first videos? She's out in Seattle.
Is it Bessie Klein is one by?
Bonnie Klein has one.
Right, well,
Yeah.
she got involved with McGill.
She got involved with another guy long before that made the really expensive ones.
Yeah. Well, there's another guy named David Lindau, and he still makes watches and clocks today. He was a watchmaker, and his are just pieces of art.
Yeah, they're
Yeah, 50,000.
Lindau White, yeah.
They're unbelievable. That's
elaborate. Yeah.
maybe I can when Kay's here. I can't really tell you what my plan is, but anyway,
They make non-MDF ones, I think.
stick with the MDF one. Yeah.
They're gold plated and everything. You know.
Yeah.
Well, we
Yeah,
can
the
get
gold
some
plated.
spray paint.
Yeah, but the ones that Gary was talking about, what they do is those are just they do pens, and I tried doing pens. That's what these finials where we ended up doing, I was trying to come up with a mandrel to do the pens, but it just moves too much.
Special chuck for
Yeah, yeah, they do, but
There's
they have all kind of stuff out
Yeah.
there. But there's a vertical MDF, vertical rose engine that they use, and that's how they do their pens, on the vertical cutter. So I tell you see some of these pens, metal especially. I went to a show, a symposium they had, I don't know how many years ago, but what they were doing, they took a piece of metal and they let you go ahead and finish it up. I gave it to Cave. It was like a little medallion. But you had to use a microscope to look down there to see it. As you were doing this, you were looking through a microscope, and I tell you, so the price on these things can be unbelievable. How intricate they are is just amazing too. But the results, like Gary said, what you see is just amazing. So what I'm going to try to do here real quick is just, I'm trying to find the center point of the yo-yo here on the edge. Because when I start going in there and making a cut, you want it to be centered. So I think I'm at the center now. Let's just see how it works. And here's a good time where you should be wearing a mask.
You guys can't see the bus out of that up there.
No, it's very, very
Very,
fine.
very, very fine. And it's like sanding back.
More than a bandsaw, even finer.
When I first started doing this, yeah, because of the noise, well, it was in the winter months, I'd go around the outside of the garage. And that was too deep. May not be. But the good thing about it is when you make that deep of a cut, you can always recover because it takes a little time. Yeah, you can tell it's really digging in.
Yeah, labor in the motor.
That'll be a good pen. It looks like one of those
Oh, it's cool like that, though.
things you play with.
That's gonna be cool.
Not Legos, but no, not Legos. Tinker toys. Yeah, you see, it's just.
Well, you can make some cool bracelets.
I do.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's it. I didn't bring it. Thank you. The bracelets.
I'm looking at that. Heck with the yo-yos.
And the way the bracelets work. When you mount a bracelet on a lathe like this, the pattern looks more like this on the outside. The bracelet. And what I've done now is I take the bracelet, turn it around, and mount it on the truck like this. So when you're done, you have a small pattern there that looks something like this. So it takes a little more time. You want to start off by marking 4 places.
Oh, so it's turning this way.
Right, so now it's keeping the whole pattern there, and I could have got the bracelet.
Oh, man.
Yep.
How slick is that?
Now see what I was to say here is because I went deeper than others,
You eventually even them out, right?
what I'll do is I'll take a pencil or a chalk and I'll mark here when I need, before I get to it, I'll mark there when I need to go deeper, when I need to pull out. And so I'll make little rotations with chalk on the chalk so I know when to go in and out. Now it takes longer, but eventually you get them all the same depth. It's here,
So it becomes like a manual thing to fix the one that's not as shallow or something.
so there's one there that's about the same as the other. So I'll just pull it back, and my chuck will be marked as when I need to go in.
Does that make it 6 sides? Is that what that's doing? Like that?
Yeah, 6 sides. It's coming this way here.
Yeah. So if that had 8 sides, this would have 8. Yeah.
6 sides.
Okay. How do these people think this stuff up? So you can make a wooden nut like that. A what? A wooden nut. I know.
There you go.
You just throw the inside. You can buy one at the hardware store for $1, or you could spend out of wood. No, but you can get free wood and $3,000 in labor.
Yeah, also I can see. Now that one just made a little mark. You'll see it. So I'm off somewhere. Now I better back off a little because it'll go too deep. see when it's coming. Look how full of dust.
Well, you get a little aquarium pump and let it blow air.
Yeah, there you go.
Like those things that they have on jigsaws?
Yeah, I set a fan down here,
Done.
and blow it that way. I had this in the living room one time and that was it. One time in the living room, that was it. They always say he put his in the living room.
Well, I mean, you gotta buy a TV for it or what?
That's right. I did. Yeah. Well, the problem is too loud to hear the TV. That's the other thing on that TV. The TV's right here. Earphones, you know, the kind you get when you're kids out with, earmuffs. I wear earmuffs too when I'm doing this. That way it stays off and I can hear it. I can't hear you, so put the earmuffs on. What was that? Sorry.
Are you making some sort of enclosure for that motor?
You know, that's, I guess you could, but this does get hot. It's not now.
Yeah, put a fan in.
Yeah, you have to put a fan in the enclosure if you do. Yeah, one of those muffin fans. But yeah, this is,
I mean, it's much easier just to do that.
yeah. I could go over this, do some more, but I remember I did a demonstration once and Mary Ann said, okay, that's enough, we saw it already. So I don't know if you want me to keep, Mary Ann, I still remember her saying that, you know. Okay, we get the picture. Let me,
I went to a Ted Nugent concert and stuff.
Yeah.
I think I was there.
Yeah, from ACDC, you're done for 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's this. Yeah, I could have gone deeper now. Now that I've moved this, well, I could still get back to where, you know, by starting off far enough and making light cuts to get in the same position I was. That's not too bad. I can do that, you know. But this could be the yo-yo that Joe uses for the demos when we're doing it, you know.
Run it right under the asphalt.
Right? Yeah, this one, if it hits the asphalt, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But like I said, the other thing is bottle stoppers. I passed that around. You saw that, so you can make some unique bottle stoppers with it. The bracelets, I didn't bring those, but what I was talking about, I don't know if did everybody hear me when I was talking about the, yeah, I guess the bracelets. If you shouldn't stick your hand over like this too, but the cutter's not moving. So you can see this is a good piece. This is a good example. Like let's say this was a bracelet. So when I mount the bracelet like this, you can see what pattern I'm going to get. I'm going to get these dots. Now if I mount the bracelet like this on the chuck, this is the pattern you're going to see. So it stays in that one position and it's just making the pattern here. Then I rotate it another, 90 degrees and do it again. And then if I look, after I did 90 degrees and it looks halfway different, then I'll split it 45 and take another pass at it. It depends, how they turn off at 90.
You're rechucking it you're having to actually
Yes.
rotate it in the chuck.
Yep, so then I loosen up the chuck and I do this and I make sure that, I have a crosshair here of where the pattern, where the cutter's going to be.
Right.
And then I make sure that, a square, I put a square up against it to make sure it's a level so I'm up against the chuck. So it just takes a little time. But it's just there's just so many different applications for this thing. And so many ways to do it. You could even, done that too, just take this rosette off, put a different rosette on to make a pattern a different way. Or go every third or so. But this is, the box is really, what I've done here, this box was small enough, and what I do is I keep it on the lathe, and I do this one. I wrap tape around the inside to give it that tight fit, and that, it doesn't yank off that way. It'll hold it just with tape on the box, the lid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I want it to, when it's done, line up. So that's, I've done it before where I've done the first part and the second, then, you know, it's close, but it's not like keeping it all in one piece. You know, but, and that was done, since it was a small enough piece, I did it the same way here. I left the cutter in the same position, just came this way and got it from this side. But if it's too big of a diameter, I'm going to have to come around this way so I have more length. So I don't know, I don't have anything else to say about it.
Well, I guess that's it.
Wow, this is a quickie.
We're done.
We're done.